But Noje, will you be able to, join in, or you'll listen to us? How's it going to work? We'll see.
I'm not able to see Uma. Where is she?
No, the problem with her thing is that if she puts on a video, then a signal kind of is a problem.
I can see her.
Yeah, so I think video off is the best. Because at least we're better off listening to her rather than not listening to her. So Jawad, thank you very much for coming in. Mr. Panchu has a COVID cough.
Yeah.
And Prerna is traveling. But look, this is Jawad, the new format. New format is that you are going to tell us about the conference.
You want me to tell about the conference?
Yes. Look, I've been talking about it. There's more than 80 sessions. If every time I talk about it, then there's going to be repetition.
You will be the best person who will do justice to it. Because I have been on and off, coming and going out. So
whatever. Look, whatever. It's totally up to you. Whatever. Because I'm telling you this, I have only some basic thing, but other people, how they've put it sounded so nice to me, and I'm expecting that Jawad will also say some very nice things. So that's how it is. Yes, Jawad. So what's it?
Yeah, let me just put on my headphones 1 minute.
Yep. Because obviously the dates we know, 18th May to 30th June, and more than 80 sessions. So, but Jawad is going to tell us more about it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. 1 second. Because I'm in Hyderabad now, so I'm just signing in through my.
Okay.
1 second. Can you see my video?
Yeah. You'll have to unmute yourself, Jawad.
You deserve congratulations for conceiving this whole idea and implementing it, because the amount of time, the amount of effort, and the amount of coordination that this whole thing takes is something that is really mind-blowing. You have told me many times, start a YouTube channel yourself, and the difficulties that I'm getting around just to get around to doing that is so what should I say, formidable. Like, I find it so intimidating that somehow I'm not able to do it. But the fact that you're doing it and consistently doing it, that is something that's really amazing, because people do things but they just stop halfway. But with you, the thing is you're just continuing to do that, and it's a sustained effort. And the best part is you're connecting with so many people globally, people whom otherwise we would not have even heard of, or we would not have had the chance to meet online, get to know about their work. The amount of fantastic, phenomenal amount of work that the guests who come on your channel, who attend your conference, especially people like Ken Cloke. Just listening to him is itself a very enlightening experience, if I may call it that. I'm not exaggerating here. I mean what I said. So it's really wonderful. It's a wonderful effort, endeavor, and what actually is the kind of push that mediation needs today. And let me put it this way, that mediation is all about peacemaking. And the fact that we are able to link with so many people all over the world, people with only one agenda on their mind, that is to resolve conflicts, to bring them together on a platform, to engage them in conversations, to get them to talk to each other. The number of ideas that are evolving from this conference, how we are going to take this forward, how we are going to implement those ideas, all these things is a tremendous amount of work. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, I'm grateful to you for doing this. And I really appreciate what you're doing. And congratulations and my best wishes to you.
Thank you, Jabbat. Look, it sounds so nice. If someone tells you all these things, this is what kind of keeps you going.
Of
Because
course.
if you're doing something and someone is
Yeah.
appreciating it, means in some way touch them somewhere, right? Wherever it, or however it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that by itself tells you that okay, you should go on, like you said,
Mm,
that I'm
mm,
going
mm.
on. So, but if there is no, if there is, if people don't connect with it or they're not benefiting from it, what is the purpose? But at least you're telling me that at least those are the things. But on the YouTube channel only because look, Jawad, you have so much to contribute to the mediation world. So that's why we need you on this side. You're a grandfather now. Now you become the grandfather of mediation in India.
A grandfather who's still struggling to make a living. I should have been retired by now, actually.
No, we don't want you to retire. Has Mr. Panchu a grandfather or his son just got married? That's the only son he
His
has. I
son
don't.
just got married.
That's
Yeah,
the only.
his only son. His only son.
So
Yeah.
imagine he's also not a grandfather. He's not the
Yeah.
grandfather of mediation in
Yeah.
India.
At least on that one aspect, I'm senior to him.
Exactly.
if,
Look, it helps.
if not,
The
huh?
seniority helps. Yeah. There is something about the person that comes from that aspect. I wish I
Yeah.
was on in your shoes. When am I going to become a grandfather? I keep telling my daughter, please, please. So Jamaat, basically what I mean, the idea, of course,
Yeah.
we discussed it last time, but let's
Yeah.
on a positive kind of note,
Mm.
considering, of course, there's so many discussions you in this conference you've heard. Otherwise,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
interestingly, yesterday we had a discussion with Pascal on mediation in criminal cases. I don't
Yeah.
know whether you've read his book or
No,
not.
no, I was, because I'm traveling, I couldn't. No, I haven't read his book. In fact, I want to get that book. So
Yeah.
once I get it, I'll.
So the aspect is that I mean, the people have worked on areas. So in India, because
Mm.
of course the mediation bill excluded criminal cases, so
Yeah.
the larger discussion obviously needs to have. That's just one thing I'm saying. But there's so many
Yeah.
other areas I think discussions have not happened. So
Yeah.
those are things. Looking at the larger picture, how do you first see mediation in? I'm saying 2026. Of course, that's short a time, but doesn't matter. Let's look at
Yeah.
it on that kind of thing. I mean, what ways that we'll get there? What are the obstacles? Just a picture, just paint a picture for us.
Okay. In my humble opinion, Vikram, I think we have very few options left for dispute resolution because litigation is overburdened. Arbitration has become stuck in a whole lot of, there's a kind of there's always a complaint that it is a monopoly of retired judges. That is a grievance that people commonly express about it. And the fact that it is very expensive, though, the mediation, the Arbitration Act is fixing the schedule of fees, but arbitrators invariably demand a much higher fee. It's becoming also time consuming because, again, challenging the award, though the scope for challenging awards is very narrow, but nevertheless, every award goes up for challenge. So, and some ground or the other, there's a stay granted, and then it takes its own course after that. So, my feeling is, I think mediation is an idea, just to borrow the words of my friend Radhika Shapurji. She said mediation is an idea whose time has come. So, but as usual in India, we are taking a long time to embrace it. Though we say that it is in our culture, we say that, historically, we are the founders of mediation. We claim all these things, but the problem is we are very hesitant to embrace it now when it is a reality before us, when it is a possibility before us, when we really can embrace it and we can make it sort of a mainstream dispute resolution process. Because mediation is basically based on dialogue. And India does have a rich culture of dialogue. So I'm really unable to, understand that how a 200-year-old colonial legacy can be so deeply etched in our psyche, can, entrench itself so much in our psyche that thousands of years of culture is something that we are choosing to ignore. So this is something that is something that I'm just trying to analyze and understand. That what is stopping us? And recently there was an article on the issue of mandatory mediation by president of the Madras High Court Advocates Association, where he said that it will amount to denial of access to justice. Now, what is justice here? Is it just that somebody has to sit there and decide who's right and who's wrong? Is that justice? And is that really accessible to people? Is that something that is affordable by people? Is it something that people can spend their money, their resources, their time, their mental peace and all that on that just to get justice? Do you really want that justice? And what kind of justice is it? Justice which is filled into silos of rights and wrongs and what are defined by law. I may be absolutely justified in my claim, but if the law is not going to say that I'm right, my claim is going to be defeated, right? So when we talk of justice, what is this kind of justice? Are we talking about justice according to law, or are we talking about real justice? Justice that I can feel, justice that I can realize that, yes, this is justice. That is where we are lagging behind. And we are so obsessed with the system that we can't think of an alternative. We don't even realize that it is a legacy that has been handed over to us. And there is something which is much more richer, much more deeper, much more profound than that. That we sit and talk to each other and try to find a solution to our problems. So that is basic. That's a very fundamental human, quality, where you have a problem, you sit and talk to each other. I was attending a training program in Kerala, one of my first training programs, and Justice Basant, who was the president of the governing body of mediation in Kerala, he is now a practicing senior advocate in the Supreme Court of India. So he said that mediation is a cultural evolution of society. He said it's a cultural leap that you take. It's a mark of a mature society. You need maturity to be able to sit and talk and resolve your problems. As children, when we have problems, we rush to our parents and tell them, please help us in solving this. And our parents tell us what to do. When we become adults, we try to solve our own problems. Right? So as a mark of a mature society, it is time that we show that we are a mature society, and mediation is something that we can work with. And mediation is something that we need to accept, we need to embrace, we need to practice, we need to implement, and we need to make it a mainstream dispute resolution process. So where is the denial of justice? What kind of justice are you denying? Is it injustice to tell people that, okay, talk and resolve it? And in a society like India, where people don't have knowledge, don't have the awareness that, okay, this method is there available for me, why don't I try it? That is where the mandatory mediation comes, and you tell them that, look, go ahead, try this. All you're doing is send them, like taking the horse to the water. Now, whether they wish to drink from the water or not, that is their choice. But you need to at least show them that here is the water, go there. So why are we saying that it is denial of justice? So when you talk to me about future, I see that, first and foremost, I think the legal community has to come out of its obsession with the judicial system. I have nothing against the judicial system. Judicial system has stood the test of time. It has stepped in whenever there has been injustice. It has stepped in to, define people's rights. It has stepped in as a sort of a bulwark against, violation of people's freedoms. It has served its purpose. And it is continuing to serve its purpose. But what we are doing today is we are clogging it. We are clogging it with disputes that we can sit and talk and resolve. All you need is a third person with a neutral perspective who will sit there and who will guide you in the process. So why don't we explore that? Why don't we try it out? So I think it is time that we come out of this obsession that this is alone justice, and nothing else can fit the the definition of justice. We need to understand that. We need to come out of it. Okay, that's why Amartya Sen talks about the two concepts in Sanskrit of niti and nyaya. Niti is institutionalized justice, but it doesn't translate as complete justice. Nyaya is complete justice, where when people are able to sit and find out that this is what is important for me and this is what I need and this is how I should resolve my conflict and this is how I should get on with my life. In a short period of time, you have the control, you have the option, you have the power to decide for yourself. What better justice can there be there? So I think it's time that we start talking about this. At least the legal community, the judiciary should start talking about this. And they should really come forward and say that, okay, here is what we need to do. And definitely nobody is going to lose out on the money. Let me tell you that. Today, there's no money in mediation because we are not doing it the right way. We are not professionalizing it. Once we professionalize mediation, there is going to be money. Lawyers are going to earn, mediators are going to earn. For judges who get trained in mediation, it is a good option for them post-retirement. As long as the sitting judges don't, exclusively make it a preserve of retired judges. It should not become a sort of a sinecure for retired judges to, make their living. Open the field up, and the possibilities are huge. And why should it be restricted only to the legal community? Why not others? Imagine a society that understands what is conflict, that has the communication skills to talk to each other and find out what exactly is the problem, has the negotiation skills to work towards the solution and find out what we can do about it. Yeah. What better for society? We have Mr. Sigaram Panchu.
Yes, Mr. Panchu is here.
Good morning, sir.
How are you feeling?
I'm better, thank you. My spirits are livened by the sight of all of you.
So nice. And all of us is only Jawad and me. Umaj is on the road. She said she'll stop in about 20 minutes and she'll log in that time.
There is another handsome man in this photograph here.
He always is there.
Yeah.
His presence is a must. But
no, there is a caption there on that photograph. It says Mediator Vikram.
Mediator?
Vikram.
Yeah.
What does it say?
That's
Mediator Vikram, sir.
So
looks quite imposing, this fellow. Yeah.
But Mr. Panchu doesn't like my physical presence. He says you look different when you.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him. Who was this guy?
I think from that I understood that I should not meet anyone in the physical world. Now it's going to be only the online world. So that's how it is.
You have a very different presence in the online world and the physical world.
Yes, and I understood from that is not such a good presence in the physical world.
No, I have. Sir, I did not have the privilege of meeting Vikram personally, but which one is more overpowering, sir?
Online,
the physical or the online?
He's very clear. If you don't meet me in the physical world, you see me in the online world. That's where I like you.
Oh, he's far more imposing, and kind of all there and authoritative in his online world.
Yeah, so that's how it is, Jawad. So now you're not going to see me. Now you're not going to see me. No one in the mediation world is going to see me after this. It was, no, that time I had to go and see Mr. Panchu. I mean, he was 3-4 kilometers away from my house. So and his, of course, the son's wedding function. So that was what it was. So Mr. Panchu, we started with Jawad, but of course it's your scene, and Jawad has promised that he will not interfere this time. Last time he intervened. This time he won't get a chance. So please paint a picture for us, and of course that article that you've written, please, from that aspect also, if you're going wrong somewhere, how do we change track? What do we do? So just to paint a picture for us, 2026 and beyond, and whatever. Totally. I mean, we won't come in. Please.
Yeah. I think that we have still not woken up to the fact that we are entering a new and a very different phase of mediation, which is not at all like how phase one was, which is like just spreading awareness and starting something in the courts and focusing on numbers. Number of mediators, number of cases, that kind of thing. We now actually have to enter a very focused professional stage, a specialized, a focused, a professional stage. And I don't know whether we're ready for it. Even conceptually, I think we have not got it in our minds that this is what is now on us. And we are still behaving in the mindset of the old, that mediation is something which emanates from courts and judges, and judges are kings and the be all and end all. and everything, you know, everybody takes their leads from them. It's not the case now. You know, judges are really going to be, I think, just a part of this whole show. But we have to step up to the plate. Judges are seeing the opportunity. They are savvy enough to see that, you know, commercial mediation is a big thing. It's a big ticket. You know, and they think, as judges often make the mistake of thinking that they can do anything. So they think that because they were judging in court, they can do mediators, which is all rubbish, you know. I've seen the most terrible mediations in the hands of very good judges. They were good judges, but terrible mediators. So they've cottoned onto it. And they will run away with it. Unless we wake up, and I'm not sure we are ready to wake up. I think only a handful of mediators have really seen that, you know, it's time to wake up. And beyond that, I think there are very few who are going to have the guts to speak out. Which is a pity, because if you don't speak out with something which is important to you, then it will not be there for you. It will simply not be there for you. Unless you put up a good, solid thing and say, no, you know, this is something which must run on guidelines and principles and first principles of autonomy and choice, judges will walk over you. But I don't think mediators are seeing it, and those who are seeing it are not having the guts to talk about it. Sad, but they will lose out. It doesn't matter to people like me. You know, I will get my business. I still have a thriving senior advocates practice. I'm not personally affected. Why did I write that article? Because I felt that one had to step out and say it in the interest of mediation, the interest of young mediators. But if they're not willing to step up to the plate, then, you know, God help them. We will see the dying. And mediation will become, you know, another branch of arbitration. Same old thing, judges appoint ex-judges. All the high-stakes matters go there. Stretched out hearings, excessive cost. And you will get your mediators doing, you know, pretty amounts in honorarium in court and mediation. People have to see it. People have to see it. It's a wake-up call. But I think it's the most important thing now. You realize, A, that mediation has to be kept within mediation and must be kept professional, must apply standards, must look at specializations, and really capture the field. We've captured the field, but now we're in danger of somebody else, you know, coming on that. We've captured a field for mediation. But in that very same field, the key players are being edged out. Look at that Hyderabad nonsense. I mean, 3 judges of the Supreme Court starting their own venture. Unheard of. Taking favors from government. Directing authorities to send all cases their way. And where are the mediators speaking out against this? If they're going to sit in their back doors and, you know, cozy up to judges all the time, then God help them. So it's a bright period for mediation. But as always happens, with everything bright, there are others wanting to come into the act. And I have no problem about retired judges being mediators. There are several good retired judges who can be very good mediators. And I welcome them. What I'm against is judicial brethren furthering their ex-colleagues. which takes away from party autonomy and which obviates a level playing field and that breaks the fundamental sense of fairness. There's no problem about retired judges becoming mediators. None at all. Several of them can be good mediators and we welcome them. But let's wake up to reality, and to hard reality. Yeah, over and out.
No, very nice. I think these are important words, but the only thing, Mr. Panchu, is that you have to lead that movement. I called it the dispute resolution revolution. You have to lead it because, like you said, these people, first of all, because they're a part of the court system, they won't speak out because they're scared. I mean, let me tell you, I think it's scared. They're just scared. So if you are leading it and all these words of your encouragement, yes, you have to. If you're looking at mediation, if you're looking at it being something that you want to just do on the side, and you want to do your litigation practice and that's your focus area, I can understand. Then you want to in some way not offend the judges, maybe. But for people, other people maybe want just that voice is there somewhere wanting to come out, I think you have to find some way that it's taken forward. How that's going to happen, you'll have to decide. Like I keep saying, that you have a voice, you have a reach. Please take us forward.
It is about time we all started to adopt a very un-Indian concept of calling a spade a spade. It's about time we all learned that, There are merits in calling a spade a spade. And when you do that, people don't mess with you.
But let me tell you, Mr. Panchu, that the word that is being used for me now is ranting, because that's the way for the last more than 1 year. That's all I've been saying, that please, judiciary has nothing to do with it. Keep them away from it. All dispute resolution doesn't happen in courts. Or lawyers don't have to be involved in it. Jawad also was speaking about it before you came, this aspect of it. So that's, I think, the message. I think we've got the message there. That's just go on. Yeah, Jawad. Jawad, you are intervening, only Mr. Panchu says. Otherwise, he'll go away. If he goes away, then you are to blame. Mr. Panchu, is he allowed to speak? Can he speak?
Yes, he can speak.
Okay, Jawad.
I'm asking for people to speak now. Can I stop him from speaking?
No, I was just telling Vikram, sir, before you joined, I think what I was saying was there is this, psychological sort of an entrenched idea in India that justice can only be done by courts, and justice happens only in the courts, and that's the only way to get justice. So I was saying that there are different ways. Like, is it not justice when people are empowered to discuss, talk to each other, and find a solution with the help of somebody who's neutral to this, who can take a neutral perspective of the conflict and help them to reach a solution? Is that not justice? That is also justice. And it is justice.
Where's the question? Where's the question?
So, where is the question? So, what I was telling Vikram was that how I see the future is that it should be open to all professions. It should be open to everybody, including community at a community level, at a social level, at a family level. People who can sit and talk to each other and help people to resolve conflicts. So, number one, we will have a society which will understand conflict better, which will have a better approach towards resolving conflict, which will have the skill sets that are required to communicate, to negotiate, and to come to a solution. That will be a much better society. So why are we burdening the courts? Now, the problem today is, as Mr. Panchu pointed out, that the courts also have started feeling that they are the only source of justice. And they are the only ones who are capable of doing justice. And there is a presumption that if you are a judge, you know every subject in the world. So, like arbitration, what has happened? There has been a monopoly of retired judges in arbitration.
Which is very
and we are seeing the consequences of it.
Very rebuttable.
Exactly. And in a country like India, we are still... Yeah. And so today, a small country like Singapore has become a hub of arbitration. Whereas India has not been able to make a niche for itself in the field of arbitration. Why is that so? Why is it so, monopolized? Why is it that, people from other countries are not willing to trust our system here?
No, come on, Jawad.
That is a challenge before us. And should mediation also...
Jawad, Mr. Panchu is saying something.
We know the answer. That's what I'm saying.
Answer. You know the difference between a good senior counsel acting as an arbitrator. He doesn't have time. He will get to the heart of the matter and wrap it up. There is a difference between a senior counsel acting as an arbitrator and a retired judge acting as an arbitrator. We know the problem.
Not only that, sir. I have done some arbitration. Yeah. No, I'm just spelling it out for Vikram because when he asked me what is the future of mediation here.
If people just say this is the total fee in arbitration, finished, you will find arbitration being wrapped up.
But Jawad, what I was saying was that the other nice positive things that you were saying, please tell Mr. Panchu also. He was saying about the mature society sitting together, our history, why is the colonial legacy we are so stuck with, why not thousands of years of
all right. Okay, fine. Let him ramble.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Jawad. My ranting, your ramble will get somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a coffee and write Am I allowed to smoke on your show?
Yes, please. It's my living room. It's my living room. This is the only living room now you're going to be because your physical presence you've banned now. So
yeah. I still haven't got your pottery, my dear boy. My son and daughter-in-law have kept it to themselves.
Mr. Panchu, look, these are all for you. Not a problem at all, whenever. But now the physical world, you're not going to meet me. So now I'll have to courier them, and my wife is going to kill me if they break. Because
no, don't courier them. Don't courier them. We'll pick them up. But as I said, you were very nice to give me pottery, but you gave it at my son and daughter-in-law's wedding event, so they've appropriated it. How can I, bloody father-in-law, walk out with some gift, yeah?
Look, for me, meeting you and wishing you was wishing your birthday was the prime objective.
Yeah.
That was okay. It was happening there. So that was
what. Yeah, my newly found Punjabi in-laws that have gone berserk. Sorry, Jawad, go ahead. Is this going to be watched by other people?
Yeah.
No,
it's going to be circulated, and at some point, Mr. Panchu, I think what's going to happen is also the clips. What those words of wisdom of yours, I think I'll have to take out separate clips and send them out, because I think it is very important for people to be able to at least have that some support that yes, Mr. Panchu is saying this, so we can look at it. I think that's how it's going to happen.
I really miss Justice Verma, you know. I really miss Justice Verma. In my piece, I mentioned him. The one man who spoke his mind. The one man who spoke his mind called a spade a spade. Really miss him.
I think Vikram, Uma is also here. So.
Yeah, Umaji, are you ready for? I mean, are you in a position to talk? Because I think she's on the road. Because there was
I can. Now I'm connected.
Yeah, perfect. So we are painting a picture for 2026. Of course, the obstacles Mr. Panchu has spoken about.
I was just listening to the last part now. Yeah.
Yeah. So please paint a picture for us, and then whatever issues and all, we'll also look at that. But maybe one end paint a nice picture, positive one, and then thinking that all issues will be taken care of. And after that, what are the issues and what we have to overcome? Then you can tell us about that. Yes, Umaji, please. Umaji, you want to?
See, of course, I did get a chance to listen to both Jawad and Mr. Sriram in full. But from what I heard in the last part, I was thinking, see, why do we have mediation, or why are we trying to have dispute resolution at all? We want parties to take responsibility for their decisions and for them to go through with it, take some ownership over the problem. So there is a factor of power, there is a factor of trust, there is the factor of empowerment and all this. Do those people who are not trained or who don't know anything about me, I'm not talking about judges or about this category or that category. I'm just saying when people don't know what is actual dispute resolution or what are the dynamics of dispute resolution, and they don't understand the impact of power or trust, will there be a proper resolution? This is what we have to ask ourselves. The second thing is, it is not whether who is going to monitor and mentor this. Are we willing to make it a standalone profession? Are we willing to take this forward? So there must be a volition, there must be a motivation. I think both of them are absent now. And how do we first promote that, I think, is the main criteria that we have to talk about today. That's what I feel. Because as Mr. Sriram was saying, there are some good judges who can mediate. It's not that we can throw away everyone. And there are people who are untrained who can do very good mediation. It's a question of who wants to care for those people and who wants to help them with their problem. Are we willing to do that, or are we doing it for our own personal aggrandizement? That's what I think is the question now. Am I doing this because I'm going to read somewhere? Because the training in the courts have led only to a commissioner-like job today. Practically, it's like that. And once you read certain settlements, you become a trainer. And I think it's gone haywire that way. So what we have to understand, and there is, I think, enough research to show that in the court-referred mediation, there is an unconscious pressure. There is some sort of coercion. So when we talk about volition, are we really talking about volition, or justifying the fact that mediation is about autonomy? Are we able to think of people having the capacity to decide for themselves and to take ownership of the problem? No, we want to make the decisions for them. So I think first what we have to understand is, how do we understand the concept of power, the concept of trust, and then redefine the whole way we have to move forward. Unless we do that, I don't think we can help mediation to be a sustainable proposition in the near future.
But any steps that you feel that you would want to take, anything for the larger, I mean, for the young people, any message there? What would you?
I think I don't have any such ideas, but the other day I was listening to something on what is creating a lot of problem today. This, what is that? Agnipath. Where people are going to be trained in a particular way for the army, and they have a tenure, and then they will be given some sort of, pension and other benefits for 4 years or something. They have to work. I haven't understood the concept, but the whole thing is about disciplining them, teaching them for a particular thing, and then letting them out. And they won't lose out because they get opportunities for further education, or they get some sort of a settlement with which they can start their own life. So I think at the school leaving stage or something like that, there must be some short course which teaches people about dispute resolution. And then they can further it up by doing other courses, do certain things. So I think we have to start at a very young age. We cannot say people above 60 will come and do mediation. No. We have to start with changing the mindset of people to say, I'm not going to go and ask for help from somebody. I am going to think about this problem and find out whether I can connect with that person. And that kind of mentality, if we are able to develop with students, I think, because that Agnipath vision is itself of creating a more disciplined youth force. So I think something like that, if we listen to it fully, or if we are able to brainstorm and get ideas, I think that will come up very well.
Okay. But Mr. Manchu, Umaji, I'll also, the question will also be for you. Mr. Manchu, definitely we have to show the young people the money, because I can't ask them at that young age to go, and I keep saying, wear saffron robes or green robes or white robes and go out and do the larger good in society. Please show them the money. How's that going to happen? How are we going to be able to do that?
You asking me?
Yes, Mr. Manchu.
I already said it. You need to make this a profession. You need to show people that they'll earn a reasonable income from the work they do in mediation. And they can make it a viable part-time career, and in time a viable full-time career. And they can specialize in it. But there will be enough work. The main thing is to say there will be enough work.
Exactly.
And that work is created, from cases which are in court, where people go to mediation before going to court. And they go because partly the law tells them to go, and they go the other way because they have trust in it. And there are good standards and good results. You have to create work.
But
That is the main thing.
But Mr. Baju, I mean, you had, of course, spoken about that
Yeah.
in the court system, these people should get market, whatever, I mean, some market kind of fees. You spoke about that, so you want to elaborate on that because that is something we can.
It's very simple. Give parties the choice of mediators. They will choose their mediators, they will fix their fees. Why are we getting into a socialist economy of, some authority saying this should be the fee, that should be the fee? Parties choose their mediators, they will choose the mediators, they will fix the fee, they will get on with it. For parties who can't get their own mediators, who can't afford a fee, you have the court system. You have a court annex system where people charge very low fees. That's it.
But
it's
is that
very simple?
But is that
some choice?
But Mr. Baju, your voice on that is also required, because will the court system be able to let go of this aspect that it's going to be market thing, so we are pushing you something into a market kind of fees? So will there be some resistance for people to go for mediation through the court system? So that's why they'll still keep it in that level.
Look, it has always been part of the rules that parties should be given the first choice for appointment of mediators. It has always been part of the rules. But judges have not employed it that way. They have kept appointing, their own nominees. Could be retired judges, could be some senior mediators, but they've kept appointing. We should tell them, please move away from this. It's not your job to appoint. It's a party's right to choose. And we should keep hammering away at that.
Because the important part is finally that distinction between free and pro bono. If you can't afford it, yes, you have a mediator who kind of does it for free. That's a pro bono activity. But someone who can afford it and still give it for free to them, I think that's.
No, that won't happen. You see, the minute you say choose your own mediator, people will want to choose a good mediator. You can't come to the court pro bono system and say, I want this one, I want that one. You will get by the roster.
But you still want to keep that option, or that is only
for people? For people who can't afford it, you must have it.
Absolutely. Only for people who can't afford it. I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying, that aspect should be very clear. And
so people who can afford it don't have it.
I think this is one area, because if we can show them that this is actually a well-paying profession. I mean, the profession word I'm not using. I'm moving away from that word, because we had a discussion yesterday. I'll take you through that.
What is wrong with profession? What is wrong with profession?
I'll tell you, because basically profession means training. And that is...
You have a bee in your bonnet about training, which I think you please discard. There is a lonely minority of one. And perhaps some of your own deficiencies.
Okay, there's a young person from Nigeria yesterday. You have to hear this. Okay, let me play him first.
Not interested. Not interested.
No, listen to him. He's a young chap.
I'm not interested in listening to anybody. Come on.
Okay. Oh my God, that was really. He said such nice things. I was amazed.
Come on, please.
Okay.
Don't take me to pre-biblical times. Yeah, come on.
Okay, no, what is it?
Profession. What did Roscoe Pound say? A profession is a group of people practicing a noble calling in the service of the public.
Yeah.
The fact that they earn an income from it does not make it any the less a profession and a noble calling. Absolutely. That is Roscoe Pound.
Oh, that's good. That's a good definition. I'm just saying that when you look at a definition, when you search...
He's the man really who's the originator of mediation.
Yeah. Because when you look
starting from his talk in 1910 to the bar in Minnesota, the causes of popular disaffection with the administration of justice. And it's that talk which became the head note for the Berger Conference in 1976, the Pound Conference, from where all mediation really started as we know it now. And that's what he said. A group of people who practice a noble calling in the service of the public. No less a noble calling because they earn an income from it.
That's really nice. That's a very nice definition.
Yeah.
I think that's perfectly all right. I mean, I'm just saying that when you look at the dictionary meaning and it goes into qualifications and training, I just feel that because of the larger population in countries like ours, we have to reach that. Like I've always say that person in the village. So, but
I know you're pegging your political dimensions in barefoot mediators. I know your plans.
village mediator. You were Mr. Panchu, you were the one who spoke about Mr. Dr. Kalam's father. You were the one who spoke about it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there was a concept of a village mediator.
Yeah.
If I'm talking
I
about,
think it's a great concept. I think it's a great concept.
yeah,
I think it's a great concept. And I think it's a concept which will
how I see
very
it.
far.
this guy Jawad intervenes when Mr.
I
Panchu.
just want to put some safeguards in it. That's all.
Yeah, we'll do that. I mean, we'll
But
work
it's
it
a
out.
great concept.
We'll sit together and we'll work that out and we'll put that message. Because message you have to put out. That's what I'm trying to say. That the reach, your one article will go out to you. I mean, at least right now, the legal profession you are targeting. I'm saying that when your articles go out in mass media, your interviews go out in mass media, which is away from the mediation world and the legal profession, that's where the message has to go out. And that's what I need you for. You are the face of at least a non-adversarial dispute resolution. So you have to be out there even talking about it, so that at least there is some basic start somewhere. So let's yeah.
But Vikram, unless other people are also there, I become a maverick voice.
They'll stand up. Like you will hear Umaji now. Umaji is also is a senior mediator. When she will talk about it, Umaji, please talk about it. Talk about how we're going to first the profession part of it, and then the village mediator part of it.
Okay, Vikram, may I take off now?
Please, Mr. Panchu, you can have your coffee, whatever. But please stay with
After
us.
Uma's comments, you'll allow me to go.
Please stay with us. There's so much more that we have to discuss. Please. So we are allowing you to have your pipe. You should not be smoking your pipe. The mediation world needs you. The world needs you, and that part of it I haven't been able to get you off. But today we're letting you do it only for you to stay with us. That's all. So
you horrible fellow. You told me I could smoke. Now you're bloody pulling me up.
what do I do? We need you. That's the problem. You don't realize that. So Umaji, profession, village mediator, what would your views be on that?
See, today we have come to a stage where initially where we started about telling people about mediation, we have crossed that stage. We have come to a stage where people know that the mediation is available. Now, how do we strengthen the practice of mediation? One is we have to have a code of ethics. We have to define that. We have to develop best practices. We have to understand that if we want mediation to be a separate profession as such, whether it is part-time or full-time, for people to take it up willingly. One is trust of the parties. The other is trust of the people who will act as mediators, to understand that it is an effective process. They can help people with this when people come to them for dispute resolution. Also, I think that when we are talking about profession, of course, we've been talking about not doing it pro bono. There's been enough talk on that. Anything which a person will value will be only if it costs them something. That I learned at a very young age. If you give it for free, nobody appreciates it. So people don't participate with that kind of good faith when you give it for free. So I think if you want their total involvement and if you want them to put in their best, I think they must be asked to pay. And as Mr. Sriram was saying, yes, they have a choice of mediators. They can choose their mediator. The market will decide who will do well. But again, how do we, from the beginning, I've always been saying that merely because a person has been trained for 40 hours or 50 hours, they are let out for the rest of their lives as mediator is not the right thing to do. We must have some sort of a mentoring process, some sort of a license maybe or something like that, or a council which monitors. I don't know how we are going to go about it. We need to discuss that. But I think we need a periodic check on how they are doing. Just like the psychiatrists go for a evaluation once in a way, because we are also doing some kind of a stressful work in that way, whether it is a commercial dispute or a personal dispute. So some sort of evaluation and how we upgrade ourselves. There must be provision for all that. Only then we can develop it as a proper profession. See, I did a 3-year course in law after a degree. That was what was happening at that time. There's a marked difference between that and the law students who come out of the 5-year courses now. They are much more professional. And even when they come in, because they've done the internship and all that, they are much more qualified to do work than what I was qualified to do when I came out of law college. So I think we have to revamp the system. This training definitely is not enough. We need to, even when we are doing training, we have to do much more in that. And we have to have a process which will keep a check on how a practice is being done of mediation. And I think unless we are able to think about what mediation will be the next 10 years, we can't achieve that.
But Umaji, at the same time, everything that you said, now from the perspective of the village mediator.
Yeah.
How would you
Yeah,
look
again,
at that?
village mediators. Say you have been saying that there can be somebody who can do it in the village. I agree to a certain extent. But I don't want these communal leaders taking over. That's one point I have against them. But again, as I said, if the youth have been trained, of course, it's very far-fetched. I was seeing a movie where Amitabh Bachchan acts as one football coach. Some Marathi fellow has taken this movie. I think it's called Jund, where these youngsters who are all involved in theft and all that are trained in football, and they go to play some national level football and all that. It's like that.
Umaji, I think your voice has got disconnected. But Jawad, why I'm not getting you in is because after these people leave, we'll discuss what they said. So we won't discuss. I won't say anything about what they're saying in front of them. We'll do that when they leave. So that's why I'm I'll get you in when both of us are there. Mr. Panchu's listening, but yes, Mr. Panchu.
Sorry, I lost connection. So I think youngsters have to be, more involved in all this. And if you get those youngsters involved in this, I think surely we'll make a marked difference there.
Yeah.
That's all. Jawad, you can continue.
No, Jawad is not going to continue. Jawad is going to be with me later. We are going to discuss everything that you people said. We're going to discuss everything because look, my views are a little radical.
No, Vikram, the problem is even I may have to leave because
you can't,
I have another meeting coming up.
No, Jawad, you can't.
I have another meeting coming up. Vikram.
What time? How much time? How much time? You have half an hour. You have
12:15, yeah. And the meeting will be...
Okay, so we'll let Mr. Panchu come in on the larger picture. Then we'll get into each of those aspects. So, Mr. Panchu, anything on the larger picture? Okay, see, he's going to come in. So I think basically, look, I'll tell you each of those aspects that you have discussed right from the beginning of justice and all, of course, the profession aspect of what we were discussing right now. All that has been discussed in the conference. So that's why I don't want to actually get into each of those things because we were discussing before this now criminal matters. Umaji, criminal matters and mediation, because yesterday we had a very nice discussion with Pascal, who's written a book, Mediation in Criminal Cases. We had a discussion there. So what do you say on the criminal matters? Umaji, are you there? No, I think her signal is an issue. So Jawad, we obviously discussed that. So I thought we'll get their view on this also, because that's one large chunk of matters where justice is really not done. So that part we need to discuss. The other thing is the government, how do we get matters where the government is involved? So those are large chunk of matters. These are. So these areas seem to be missing. I mean, I don't even like to give sanctity to the mediation bill by talking about it, but excluding the matters there, criminal matters.
Another 5 minutes come through. Sorry. No problem.
Yes, Mr. Panchu.
Yes, sir.
Two things we were talking about: the large chunk of matters, that is criminal matters, and where the government is involved. How do we take those forward in relation to mediation?
Which matters?
Criminal and government.
What is the big problem?
I mean, look, the bill that I don't want to give sanctity to excludes criminal matters. Government
No, no,
doesn't
no,
seem
no,
to
no, it doesn't exclude. It only excludes criminal matters where there is serious body harm.
in the
Other matters are either compoundable or can be quashed, and certain quasi-criminal matters can go to mediation where sanctioned by the court or tribunal.
okay. So you're saying that we will be able to get that as
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of the
yeah.
okay.
Government is concerned, it's very simple. Government doesn't settle in mediation because government officers are scared that if they give up something, they'll be hauled up later. All that government has to do is to create a high-level committee which will give approval for negotiated settlements. Once that is given, there must be complete immunity in law. If government will do that, government can take care of 80% of its disputes.
Absolutely.
Nothing is complicated here.
But who will I mean compose that body? What do you look at that?
Who will
How do
comprise the body? Have a retired Supreme Court judge, have a retired CVC, have a retired, CBI, whoever you want.
can't we
People from
send?
the economic ministries.
But Mr. Panchu, with the kind of work there is, can't we send all these retired judges there so that they stay out of mediation?
I think retired judges should not be allowed to take arbitrations. They should be employed compulsorily in public service.
Yeah, exactly. And
If you
this
go
is
up to the Supreme Court and you want to go to the Supreme Court, after Supreme Court, don't do arbitrations. You'll be employed in public service. You'll get your same salary, you'll get your house, you'll get everything. If you don't accept that, don't go to Supreme Court, stay in the High Court. Do arbitrations after you retire.
and I'm saying that this body that you're talking about, if we can
Yeah.
send all these retired High Court, Supreme Court judges, there's still more work because the number of matters, settlement agreements that can come out from the government are huge.
80% of the government cases will settle here.
Exactly. So I think this, Mr. Panchu, are you taking this body thing seriously? Are you taking it forward? Are you doing something about it?
Yeah, I will do something, but I've had a meeting with somebody very senior in government on this.
Yeah, because I think seems to be a very, very important. Look, I don't like to say this because Mr. Panchu, I've been talking about this for a year now. So this exact thing, but I don't want to take credit. I mean, you are the one. It's your idea. You have to take it forward. So please take it forward. Articles, please write articles on these things. Please spend time for the mediation world in these kind of things that you are talking about. So that's important. So government and criminal matters, largely you're saying that can go.
Can go, no difficulty.
Perfect. So any other large chunk which is not touched today, which we can look at in the future? Anything that you see? Or everything else is covered?
I think culture. You must look to see how you inbreed a culture for mediation. How you do it at schools and how you do it in organizations where without something really sparking off into a huge dispute, there are always differences which cause tension. How do you create a culture by which you create a facility, an atmosphere, a possibility of two people just to sit across the table and say, okay, how can we make things better? So that culture, I think, is important. And beyond all the mechanics of our legislation and systems and all that, just a culture which says it is possible to resolve disputes by talking, and let's see how we can create the groundwork and the facility to that. It need nothing more than one table and two chairs. It's as simple as that. Your village panchayat sat under a tree.
That's exactly.
You just need one room, one small room, a table, two chairs, three chairs, one facilitator, two parties. They sit and they have a guided conversation. But that culture, that I think is important. Thanks, Vikram.
No, thank you, Mr. Panchu. There's lots more. Definitely, we'll keep talking about that. But you have to spend some time on some practical things that we need to do. Jawad is here. We will then take forward things, but you have to be the voice out there. And maybe spend a little more time on the mediation world and developing it, and away from some of the work that you do in the courts, if possible.
Well, I'm relying on you guys to make sure that I'm not the voice in the wilderness.
Mr. You're telling me I have been shouting, ranting for the last 1 year on these issues. So,
yeah.
And I am the totally independent voice. I have nothing to do with the courts. So for me, there's no issue. But
Yes.
Jawad, we have to bring Jawad into it. How do we do that is the important thing. So, but we'll
Yeah,
do
bring
that.
him into it. Bring him
Yeah,
into it.
yeah.
I mean, he's the poster boy of mediation. If he comes in, a
Yes.
whole lot of fan flock will come in.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So let's get Umaji's view also. Umaji,
All
culture
right.
of mediation, developing a culture of mediation. Mr.
Yeah.
Panchu said.
Vikram, just 1 minute. I just want to check because Mr. Sriram Panch is leaving. So, do we have a meeting today?
I'm ready.
Do
This
we
is
have a
nice.
meeting today?
Yeah, yeah.
What time, sir?
You tell
What
me.
time? No, as soon as Vikram releases me.
Yeah. Give me a call as soon as you release it.
Anytime.
And please don't mind if it takes some time because the
Okay, sir.
poster boy is required. He's actually, I keep telling him he is required for this. His YouTube channel, everything. It's almost been 9 months. Baby's come out in 9 months. His
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
channel has not come out in
Keep
9 months.
Keep him. As long as you keep him, you'll get the flock. Okay.
Yes,
Bye.
exactly.
You guys.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Panchu.
Bye, Vikram. Bye, Jawad. Bye, Uma.
Bye. Umaji,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Umaji, developing a
I
culture of
would
mediation.
love to believe all that. I would really love.
Then we will believe it when it all happens. Umaji, developing a culture of mediation.
Yeah, that is what we've been talking about. No, all this. How do we develop? Means there must be a culture of mediation. See, we talk about high context society, low context society, and all that. We say naturally these people are aggressive. They start screaming. They start doing things. Now, why have we done that? See, somebody said put it very nicely, saying, "Why are you angry? You are angry because you're not able to handle the situation." It's something like that. I don't know how to handle the situation, so I go to somebody else. But if I learn to handle it myself, I'm not going to go. It's just like these native medicines which we have. Take a haldi or this or that and treat it. Otherwise, if this doesn't go, then you go to the Vaid and then do something. But today you go and you see a doctor, you get antibiotics. So we have certain traditions, and especially, there's one in the southernmost district, there's one district called Tirunelveli where there's a collector. He's put out some YouTubes. Of course, it's in Tamil. He speaks about how the tribes handle their issues. And it's very good. And I think some of those tips, he talks about their lifestyle, about their harvesting things in the forest and all that. But one part of it is this dispute resolution also. And I think somewhere along the line, each tribe or each place has a different culture. Of course, Mr. Chandoik says about touching the elders' feet and people have been able to resolve. So those kind of small things are totally different from the West. How people look at relationships, how they look at face saving here are all totally different. So we have to understand the local culture. That is why what you say about community mediation will work. There they will know the nuances of, how to handle these people. And my only fear, as I've been telling you, is I don't want it to become communal blade, those community-based things. But if it is for the larger good of the entire community there and somebody who's respected and some of these youngsters get involved and they are able to take it forward, I think we'll be able to develop the idea that people can handle their disputes and they will not rush to the nearest police station or go to court. As you said, everything cannot be handled by the court. And today, what kind of, at least mandamus is being filed? So many mandamus. The government, for one, has to understand that there can be this morning, actually, I was talking to Justice Kannan about something, and he said government officials are not prepared to take responsibility for a decision. And that's the major hurdle. And I think that is one whole chunk of litigation coming into courts because no government official wants to take responsibility for a decision. So if we are able to enable them to do that, one large chunk will go into dispute resolution. The other is, of course, at the grassroots level where people, they need not think of themselves as the victim or to punish the other person as the offender for everything, whether it is a criminal issue or not. But if they can look at the other person as a fellow human being with whom they have to live in the same community, maybe they will be able to find some commonality which will help them to connect somewhere. See, there are there was a very, important lesson that I learned from a partition suit where in Tamil Nadu, first cousins get married. There was a partition suit because now women get equal rights, and so the husband had instigated the wife to file a suit against her brothers. So one of the sisters, when we were talking, she said, I have no problem. When my brother's daughter was getting married, I gave my jewelry, but we are not on talking terms. And I'm glad that you brought us around in the same room to sit and talk. So whether it is in a room or whether it is under a tree, if somebody is able to get this family together and talk, or even in that wedding, if somebody had gone across and asked her to come, everything would have been resolved. But they were in second appeal at that stage. So I think somewhere along the line, if we learn that hate or anger alone is not going to help you, but you can understand that the other person also needs help in some way and help them. I think a lot of litigation can go out of, I mean, it will not develop into a litigation at all. It can be resolved much earlier. And so, as Mr. Sriram was saying, we need to develop that culture. And again, it goes back to children being trained to think differently and not like what we are doing today.
So, but Umaji, you here now for some time because I want to start the discussion as to my points also, but I
Yeah.
wanted to do it because only with you. I mean, it's not that we don't your whatever your thought process is important with all your experience. So I didn't want to cut that off. But if there's anything else that you put on the table for us, and then we'll also. I mean, you obviously will stay in the discussion, but if there is anything else on the larger picture, on I mean, we have a canvas in front of us. Let's put everything there, and let's then put out those thoughts for people to fill in. So, is there anything else in the on the larger picture?
Yeah, see, I think mainly because at least in Tamil Nadu, I find that people are unhappy with the civil justice system, and so they convert everything into a criminal issue and go to the police station, and then it takes a totally different color after that. So I think again, as we said, we need to develop that culture. But more than anything else, I think the present lawyers are also out there practicing. Of course, it's their bread and butter, but they also have to understand that these are people. And as Justice Venkatarachalaya once said, unless the lawyer understands the pain of litigation, the parties will never find peace. I think that pain is what we have to make people understand. And for that, whether it is culture, whether it is justice, whether it is training, whether it is trust, whether it is power, I don't know what. But something has to be used as the anchor on which a better thinking pattern can develop. That's what I feel.
Well, the starting point for me is what Jawad started off with. That in a way, a mature society is one where people can sit together and talk. And that
Exactly.
should really be our focus. Because I'll tell you where the problem, because of course he spoke about access to justice and that aspect of it. And for me, that mediation, some places in the world, they talk about being access to justice. But when I look at what's really happening is in mediations, that look, in the courts, you'll spend so much time, you will spend so much money, so you should settle at this stage. For me, that is actually finally telling someone to compromise on something where they actually had their stand, but because if of course in our country that costs aspect is not so much of an issue, but in the US, if the cost is so much of a problem, then in that case it becomes a gamble for them. That if I go to the court and it goes against me, I'll have to pay costs. So it maybe that fear that is put in them. So what I want to do is that develop mediation as something that they understand as a much better process, and the whole concept of dialogue and discussion becomes that culture to develop, and not take it as because we have such an inefficient institution, the judiciary, and for that reason you should be sitting. That whole, of course, the mandatory mediation and all those comes from that aspect of it. I'm
No,
saying let's
that is very true because Jawad knows in my training I never say benefit of mediation is saving on cost and money. I think that's futile because a person has believed in the court and he's gone there, and after waiting for 10 years and spending money, if you tell him that it's going to take another 20 years, so why don't you settle? I think you're frustrating everyone. I don't think that is right. Of course,
exactly
it will happen on the way, but I don't think that could be a reason for settlement. I think
exactly
adding value and creating relationships which are sustainable. I think those are the factors on which we have to focus and develop techniques to help people to. I mean, they must get some value out of the whole thing. Why did they fight? So they
exactly
must
that's
get
what
some value.
Because I'm saying that it is because that the aspect of the courts putting their house in order, they should start looking at those aspects of it, so that it's not that mediation is an option for reducing the backlog, and let us develop as some, because we have a long term, we have to develop it on a long term basis, and on a long term basis it can only happen when see the people see the benefit of actually being able to resolve disputes. For me it's disputes, I call it the dispute resolution revolution. The larger conflicts, Jawad and you are there for doing the larger conflicts. For me, it's just that the dispute, they get a taste of mediation through that. They actually see a quantifiable difference, and then they use it in their lives and the other aspects of things. So that part of it, because we in the last symposium that we did last year, Chuck, who's from Israel, who's now based in Germany, says the court system in Germany is so efficient that mediation has not taken off. While in Israel, because it takes so much time, mediation developed. So we don't want mediation to develop in that kind of a scenario where it is the inefficiency of the judicial
Exactly.
system. So you make the judicial system efficient, keep working on that.
Yeah.
Don't I mean, this is a totally different process, and we would develop a culture of mediation. So on the children part of it, my issue has been with this whole peer mediation kind of thing, that it becomes more of conflict coaching and become a good human being, and that side. I'm saying the actual skill of being a mediator and the seeing a dispute and actually being able to resolve a dispute, that is mediation. And that part of it, that is the taste that they should get. So I'm trying to put this whole school thing is that these people who have that, I keep saying natural ability, who are already identified by the children, let them be doing actual mediation and resolving disputes, and the larger conflict coaching and all, definitely all that should happen. I mean, a lot of ways people are taught to be good human beings, that obviously should continue. But I'm saying the mediation part of it sometimes gets lost in this entire thing. It's a different thing. I mean, actually resolving your dispute with a third person, that is what I'm focusing on. Let's keep it on mediation. For me, I mean, I'm just saying, for me, mediation is the focus.
No, see, I agree with you on that. See, Jawad knows that we were doing a refresher training in May in Hyderabad for already trained advocates who are in the court system, and this IAMC wanted them to involve some of them in commercial disputes, and we were doing a training. But what we found was they had a mindset saying that, okay, if it's a custody case, then the parents have to get back together. We have to do that. If it's a land dispute between brothers, then they have to compromise and go. See, it's your moral values which are coming in, and whatever training was done, I don't know, it has been thrown out of the window, and these people don't care for the parties. So what I'm saying is, if we want it need not be to say that you must be a good person or morally righteousness is the only thing is that is important, but they have to understand what is the right thing to do in the circumstance. See, that is why I like these two words in Sanskrit, which is called as Rita and Satya. Satya is truth, which is absolute, but Rita is according to the circumstance. Now, why did Krishna say, thump his thigh and then ask Bhima to hit him on the thigh? He knew that only that way he could kill. That is why in the, see, our epics are all like that. According to that particular age, they had those epics. And they were saying how you could do something to restore harmony. So that is what I think must be taught to the children. They must be taught that ultimate thing is in these circumstances, what is the right thing to do. They need not be good people. They not be absolutely truthful or something like Harichandra or something like that. That's not the purpose. The purpose is for them to understand what is the opportunity and what is possible to do. And if that we are able to do, that is why I'm not saying school children. I'm saying when they just leave school, they are there to learn something more. Like sort of a finishing part in they need not do a 1-year course. They're just going to do about 10 days or something. They listen to all this, then they understand how they can go about.
No, Umaji, what I'm going to be doing, and I will, for right now, I'm not putting them up there. I will, those children who are already there, and I will, I mean, like I'm saying, I'm identifying those people, village, school, everywhere, and you will meet those people, and you'll be happy to see that without any coaching, any training, nothing,
Yeah.
you will listen to them, and you'll be so happy that they have everything that you want them to have. So I want to bring
Exactly.
those people out. So you will actually notice that, well, the idea is that finally we had a discussion of mediators as leaders and leaders as mediators. Final aim is that these are the people who we should be in society, being the reasonable voice and take forward in various areas. I mean, the one is mediations, and other is the role, the larger role that they have. So that part of it both being important. So that I think is something that Of course, now Jawad has to come in. Jawad kind of got
Yeah.
disconnected. Yes, Jawad, please. Yours, totally. Jawad?
Sorry, I think I got disconnected for a minute, Vikram.
Yeah.
What was the last?
Nothing. No, based on whatever we've discussed, I wanted to get you after that because I just how you want to take it forward and being the poster boy. What is the poster boy
From
going
what
to
I
do?
heard from the conversation, well, first of all, I wish I was a poster boy, but unfortunately, my age doesn't put me into that slot at all. So,
It's the
okay,
right age, Jawad.
that's
This is
number
the
one.
right
Number
age. This
two
is the
is
right age. Poster boy for mediation. This is the right age.
okay. Maybe if grandfathers are qualified to be poster boys, I think I might perhaps have some ambition to be one, but I don't think I am as yet. So I don't know whether I'm sure Uma will agree with me on that. Coming back to the topics that we were discussing, I think there are
I think the signal is a bit of a problem. Jawad has got disconnected again. So
I don't
please.
know how long I will stay connected also anyway.
No, we'll wrap it up. I just thought because I actually, I mean, did not let Jawad speak at that point of time because I felt that let him listen to you
Yeah.
people and then based on that, what his view is, because he definitely has to take things forward. There's so much that he needs to do. I mean, I think he has. My only problem with him, and I keep telling him, is that he gets stuck in the negativity around him. That part of it, to be able to get him out of that, is my only way. I mean, my aim, if I can do that. Because I'm telling you, there's so many positive things he can do, but a lot of his
Yeah, yeah.
energy goes into that. And how many I mean, how much can you fight these more like bots? When I keep talking about all these people who put out all this on social media, think of them as just computers generating all the filth. And how many computers can you fight with? So I think he doesn't realize that part of it.
No, it's not only that. See, all of us come from different conditionings and backgrounds. So each person is entitled to their own views. As long as it doesn't hurt the other, it is okay. But then today, what has happened is because of the social media, anybody and everybody thinks that they can make a statement and you will get thousands of likes and thousands of dislikes. You can't get affected by that.
Exactly.
You must be able to discern what is right for you, what you want to really read, what you want to remember. All those things are there today. So it's not worth wasting much of your time on most of these things.
Exactly.
So I think somewhere along the line, anyway, we have Jawad and I have had talks on this, but I personally feel that if I am able to keep a positive attitude and do my bit, which according to my conscience is right, then I'm fine. That's all. I can't do much more. I can't change the society. So
Jawad doesn't know that. Jawad doesn't know that his absence. I took the advantage of his absence to talk about him. you can listen to the recording, Jawad. So yes, Jawad. Now, how are you taking it? What message do you have for the world, for the mediation world in India and the young people, and how we're taking forward the culture of mediation? All that you've heard, all Umaji and Mr. Panchu.
Okay. Vikram, I don't have any message for the world. I can just express what my opinion about this is, what my views are. Perhaps people may agree with those views. Perhaps they may not agree with those views. I may be right, I may be wrong, whatever it might be. So what I was telling you was that I think there were three things that you were talking about. One was about the criminal, mediation in criminal cases. The second was, how the government, what about the disputes that involve the government, how they should be mediated. I think that was substantially covered by Mr. Sriram Panchu, which I don't think I need to repeat again, because I think that is the view of everyone. I think the government needs to create a proper institutionalized system where, people are not held accountable for any decisions that are taken in mediation. There should be some transparent procedure where whatever decisions are reached through mediation are upheld and are honored by the government, by the departmental heads or the secretaries or the ministers or whoever that is involved in that. That is as far as the government is concerned. And the third thing you said was about the village mediator at the community level, how mediation is. I think at the community level, Uma made a very important point as to whether community leaders are good enough to be mediators. Now, here is the challenge here, because not much of research has been done on our panchayat system itself. I searched and searched Google to see if any study has been done on how our panchayat system works. I came across only one paper. Perhaps I had actually downloaded the paper. I'll try to share it with you. Now, here's what that study says. It says that, women, for example, avoid panchayats, avoid taking their issues to the panchayat because it is heavily loaded against them. Because most of it is a male-dominated setup where, the panchayats are always invariably males, and they come with their own baggage of what is right and what is wrong, their own cultural notions of women's status or women's role in society and all that, and never is there a decision that goes in favor of women. In fact, I recall that when Justice Karpavanayagam was was one of the judges in our High Court, he had made the panchayat leaders to prostrate before the woman who was made to prostrate before everybody else in a meeting held in the panchayat. So now there are some challenges over there, and that is where we feel that, as Mr. Panchu also pointed out, what I feel is, I think there are some people who are naturally qualified or who are naturally endowed with those skills to be good mediators, who are not judgmental, who do not bring their values, their biases, their prejudices into the process of mediation. But where the, perhaps a little bit of training would help is, if the training is given in the right manner, if the proper training is given, perhaps it might help them to at least, be able to recognize those biases, all those prejudices, as and when they crop up, as and when they express themselves, and be conscious to, overcome those biases and then go on to a more neutral role as a facilitator of resolution of dispute, or maybe, engage in a more transformative kind of mediation. So that is where I feel that, perhaps training will have some value even there, notwithstanding the natural qualities that people might have. Okay, because I realized it, because I used to fancy myself as a person without biases, without prejudices. But it is only after, getting into mediation, after practicing mediation, I realized that I'm as prejudiced or as biased as anybody else. So, but the only thing is, it helped me to recognize that where is the bias coming from, where is prejudice coming from, and whether I'm really neutral. I think we had that discussion last time, in one of your, with Meena and with Gayatri, the other person. So we had this discussion. So this is where I think training would help. Now, coming to criminal matters. See, the problem is today our society is guided by the Hobbesian concept of human beings being essentially barbaric and savage, and needing a Leviathan to sort of control them, to keep them in check. We need to have these institutions, we need to have the laws in place to help people to, overcome their, or keep their savagery aside and be civilized within quotes. Okay, now this is where our criminal law comes from. Okay, it's based on this Hobbesian concept that man is basically, or human beings are basically wild, they're barbaric, they're savage. Now, this is where I think there was an essential, sort of a, what should I say, a wrong basis for this kind of a thought process, or for this kind of principle to, or for this kind of an idea to evolve. Because if you go back to our hunter-gatherer days, before we became the so-called civilized, before the agrarian revolution happened, before we discovered agriculture and started settling down, and that is when the concepts of ownership, possession, and therefore followed by greed, the hunger for power, all these things followed. But when we were hunters and gatherers, we did not know the concept of ownership, therefore the concept of greed did not exist. We used to live by the day, we used to hunt for food, and as and when we get the food, we used to share it between everybody, because we realized that survival to survive, we need to share and we need to help each other. So based on that concept, the Hobbesian principle led to the evolution of the laws as we understand.
Umaji, Jawad was saying very good things. The only thing is he's got disconnected.
Okay.
You want to take that forward, because I tell you, Jawad is back. But this is what he's saying was, I'll add to that. Yes, Jawad, I'll add to what you were saying. It was interesting. So Jawad, you there?
So today, what has happened today? We have advanced in neuroscience. There's so much research in neuroscience, which shows the neuroplasticity of the brain and how the brain can be shaped by the environment that we grow in, by the circumstances that, which we face as we are growing up. What happens to us when we are children, when we are, in the care of caregivers, all those experiences, how they, shape our brain and how they shape our thinking and how they really help or rather make us what we are. So with this kind of an understanding, I think we need to revisit this.
I think his signal is a problem, because I was actually going to add what he was just added, that basically the brain can change, and that yes, Jawad.
I'm really sorry because I've been hurt by and my connectivity seems to be
How
really,
are you going to do your meeting after this?
Playing up today.
You have a meeting to do. What about
I
that
don't
meeting?
know. I'll have to manage somehow. I think I really don't know how I'm going to manage. I hope I don't get a mouthful from Mr. Sriram Panchu for that.
But there's
Okay,
no Wi-Fi option. There's no Wi-Fi option.
No, I'm on my hotspot because I don't have a Wi-Fi option here. Anyway, I don't know the password, so there is. I think there is a Wi-Fi thing here, but it's not working for me. So I'm on my hotspot. So just bear with me. So what I'm saying is, I think we need to revisit all these concepts. We need to revisit all these ideas of crime and punishment, of how our criminal jurisprudence has been conceived and how it has been implemented. I think we need to really revisit all these things. It's high time that our society takes a relook at.
So important things Umaji is saying, but this signal thing is a big problem, because I think
he's losing. He's losing his signal. Yeah.
I think basically only thing is he needs to get the password. One little password, Jawad, would have changed the way we were meeting. One little password.
Yeah. Just my nephew has come. I think he'll help me. Just bear with me for some time. I think you can continue your conversation.
Let me talk to Umaji up till then about this. So Umaji, basically the concept we were discussing yesterday in that the session on mediation and criminal matters. So basically the thing is that the whole concept of restorative circles and restorative practice and all that has been around for a very, very long time in indigenous communities and everything. But this justice system that we picked up from the colonizer, just the jail concept and just the way that jail is, structured to take away someone's freedom like that. And on the other end, not being able to give justice because obviously the whole process. And what Jawad was saying about the brain, the whole structure can change, that amygdala, development of the amygdala and all that is happening, research is happening. So why this discussion is important is because for mediation in criminal matters to develop also, if this background is there and this is looked at as an option, I think it will take that thing forward, because we have a system which is still living in the Middle Ages. I think we can change. I don't know what you feel about that.
Yeah, see, I was doing this course on restorative justice and mediation. I just did that segment for MNLSU. They have this MA mediation and dispute resolution. And one of the other trainers had shown this movie by Amir Khan, where 3 incidents had been taken. This granddaughter of Shankar Dayal Sharma, her parents had been brutally murdered during those Sikh riots. And how she dealt with the person who had murdered her parents, how she lived her life hating them, and then how when he met him, she changed her attitude. And like that, similar instances were taken. There are, as you said, there have been issues like that handled differently by a lot of people in their own way. We have not given many people an opportunity to do that because of various circumstances and because of the laws that we have. And more than that, today I'm worried about a one-time offender being jailed and how he becomes a hardened criminal after that. So if a person is given an opportunity to understand, especially in our area, you will find that the agricultural land, water sharing will be the biggest problem. And once a person takes more water than the other, he will go and hit him. Sometimes it results in a murder also. It is not something which was planned or something that it was just a spur of the moment altercation which results in the death of one person. So sometimes they have. There was a case where in the High Court, the judge gave them an opportunity, and this man said he would look after the fields of the other person because the poor widow did not have anybody, and he would take care of the victim's children. And that was how the case was disposed of. Understand the context and deal with the situation. And there must be a space available, no, for all this kind of discussion. Because once the police comes in and they do an investigation, they need to file the charge sheet. It just gets away from the hands of these people. Leave alone that. Today, even if a person has an ordinary dispute, say a boundary dispute with their neighbor, and they go to the lawyer immediately says criminal trespass. It need not be criminal trespass. So once it goes to the police, it takes a different color. Also, I think police need to be trained. Long time back, I found a manual of conflict resolution by the Karnataka police. It's a very good manual, actually. I had downloaded it from one site, but somewhere I've lost it now. Their police officers were given training on conflict and negotiation. They were made to understand. I think somewhere along the line, I don't know how much work is being done in every police force, but if those at the lowest level, if the police is, sort of given basic understanding of what kind of cases have to be really registered, what they can do to help those parties when they come to them with a complaint. See, today we have these all-women police stations. More often than not, if a woman goes out of distress to the all-women police station, even if she was not had met with that kind of an abuse, these people convert it into a dowry, into a domestic violence. And most often, I have seen people saying, oh, she went to the police, so we can't take her back. That's the end. The relationship goes. So that kind of sensitivity for the lawyers is also necessary. And people also to understand that once they go to the police station, the relationship is going to come to an end. They need not do that. The other thing is when I remember somewhere in Lagos, I think, they have one particular way. If somebody finds a very valuable article on the road or something and they pick it up, and the real owner is searching for it and this person doesn't own it, they have a hut where in front of which all the village people are made to stand, and they have to close their eyes, and they are given an option to return that article within the hut within 10 minutes. So nobody knows who was the offender, but that article is returned. So I think those kind of things, you can develop and have at the village level, at the small community level, so that children also understand that they cannot take away somebody else's possession. They cannot harm. And for all that, in various stages, we need to develop certain things. And if that is done, I think a lot of these smaller crimes that are, taken to the police station can be stopped.
Yeah. Well, that's
a
what
lot
I'm saying.
can be done. Initially, I spoke to one of the district judges here about having a center in some sort of a mediation thing in our police stations, but that hasn't worked out at all.
Yeah. No, I think the thing is that certain things have to go hand in hand for mediation to also develop. Like I told you about the whole concept of the criminal justice system, whole relook has to happen. You can't do the 1700s thing in 2022. So all that has to happen there, because I'm saying at the community level, we have to also strengthen communities for the community feeling, that sense of ownership to the community, that also has to develop at the same time.
Exactly.
For people to feel that yes, they're part of a community, so they're resolving it not just for themselves, for being part of the community. So I think all those things, and the police thing, I'm telling you, this is something which is a whole area which is there. Police mediation is an area which we have to, of course, bring in. And Jawad and you are people who are out there, of course, training. We use the word. We use the word. So this is one area that all the police forces can actually use this. and this is a whole activity by itself. So there is so much that, of course, has to be. There's one person in Spain who's doing it in his whatever region, and he's done a lot of work there. I'm trying to get him in, but he's also, I think, a problem sometimes is also the language. A lot of people, because they're not comfortable in English, sometimes they don't want to attend these conferences. I know there are a lot of people who, of course, are familiar with Spanish, but I'm not being able to get them only because of language thing. But we'll manage. We'll get them all in. So Jawad, now we've
No,
got the.
see what Vikram, it's a very simple thing. We had one local, there's one just on the outskirts of Chennai, there's a law college. And those students had come to watch mediation. And like one day they were just going around the high court and looking at various things and they came. And so they asked us, I think Jawad was also there that day and we were talking to these students. Bharat was there, I remember. And then we started talking. And at the end of it, I just told them, there were about 70 or 80 students. So they were all sitting in that hall and I just said, hold the hands of the person next to you. So they formed a chain, like every row formed a chain. They were holding their hands. And I said, let's make a pledge to say that we will not fight with each other. We will understand what is the conflict we have and we will go and talk to each other. You won't believe the kind of energy they generated there when they took that pledge and they held hands. And afterwards, when we had tea, most of them came and told me, Madam, it felt so good to hold hands with the people who are standing nearby and say this aloud. It felt, it made us feel that we belong to each other. And I think what you said also about belonging to the community, that's where it comes from. You have to make them feel that the sense of belonging and that they are also valued in that community and they also have a part to play in that community. And if that feeling, if you are able to create, I think the rest will go on after that.
No, because I'll just take it from where Jawad also spoke about it. He was obviously talking about the panchayat, and I'm saying that let that system be on one side. There are other people out there who are actually doing mediations. Let's bring those people out. They, like I mean, that title I sort of one session, mediators as leaders and leaders as mediators. So first stage, it will be identifying those mediators, bring them forward. They will lead the community, and then over time, you will expect your leaders to be mediators. So that stage will bring it at that stage, because I think, I mean, the community needs them, value them. The first thing is valuing them. So we'll say, Jawad, please, now you've got the Wi-Fi going. Finally.
Yeah, it's working.
Yes. So can we rewind and go back? We can go back now to 1.5 years later earlier. So yeah, please.
No, see, what I was saying earlier was that the whole concept of criminal jurisprudence, as we understand it today, as we practice it today, I think it needs to be relooked. And that is where I think, the hate the sin, not the sinner concept comes in. So, but unfortunately, what is happening today in society, okay, I'm trying my best to look at following your advice and advice and trying to look at the positive side of it. But the more I look, the problem is we are going back, or rather the more science is progressing, the more we are understanding the universe, the more we are understanding our own minds and things. We are going backwards, like we are regressing, and the polarization, the hate, the kind of the divisions that are happening in society. Sometimes it makes me wonder that where are we heading actually? Now we have a concept where we have an idea where we are going to be training young youth from the age of 17 onwards for 4 years, teaching them how to kill and be killed. And then we are going to let them loose in society without any job, without any education, without any hope for the future. So where is it that we are taking society to? So this is something I think we need to all sit together, because all you see is my angst about this. And you feel that I'm focusing on the negative. Not at all. Okay. I think we need to acknowledge what is happening, and we need to address it, and we need to see what we can do about it. And unless we acknowledge that, whether it is computers behind the bots, there are people who are operating those bots who are trying to create this kind of a situation in society where I simply hate you because your name is Vikram. I hate Uma because her name is Uma, and you hate me because my name is Jaman. Where are we heading? As mediators, are we not supposed to be conscious of what is happening in society? Are we not supposed to be concerned about that.
One second, I'll cut you off on that. But you said that people sitting on the computer. One day you'll find out there are no people behind the computer. It's the computer generating it.
Yeah, computer generating it, but there is somebody who has programmed the computer for generating it. Right? Computer doesn't operate on its own. So who are these people? Why are they doing this? Is it only to win some elections? It's only to hold on to power? What is it that we are trying to achieve through this? Are we not harming the society? Are we not driving these divisions so deeply that there will come a time when genocide can happen, and we'll all be sitting and watching it and thinking that, okay, let's be positive about it. There's nothing positive about genocide, right? What are we talking about today? So when we are talking about peacemaking, when we are talking about mediation, when we are talking about resolving conflicts, are we not supposed to open our eyes and see what is happening around us and see what can be done about that? Should we not have a dialogue about it? Should we not have a conversation about it?
So
without really getting into sort of a blame game, or asking about acknowledging the past, or asking about setting right historical wrongs. How far back in history are we going to go to set right historical wrongs? See, these are all. What I'm saying.
No, you will say. You will say everything.
Let me complete.
Then you will complete everything. One thing what I was saying, that just give me that. Do not. Okay, I was asking for 3 months. Give me 1 month. Just give me 1 month, and you will see that there is there is hope. I will show you that hope. But yeah, please.
No, it's not that there is no hope. I see a lot of hope. See, I work with a lot of students. Okay, I train them, I coach them. Even a few days back, just 2 or 3 days back, I was with students from Sri Lanka, and we were talking about one aspect of mediation, that was time management and option generation and all that. And I have a lot of hope in the future generation. It is our generation that I'm worried about, because it's our generation that is in power today. And what kind of society are we going to create for those future youth who are going to be reaching our stage? We are holding on to power today, and we are playing with power. We are playing with fire. We are destroying the society. What kind of society are we going to leave behind for them? Are we not worried about that? Should we not be worried about that? Should we not work towards having an engagement on this, talking about this at least, and trying to see how we can find solutions?
You have to link.
Why are we stopping?
But you have to link
today,
all this.
A person like me is a persona non grata everywhere. Within it's my community also. Like I posted on Facebook.
What is your community? Jawad, you are part of the mediation community. That's all we know about you. Nothing else. You are the mediation community. But no, at the same time, you also have to, whatever you're saying. No, Jawad, whatever you're saying, you have to. One second. What I'm saying is that whatever you're saying at all points of time, then you will have to connect it to promotion of mediation and how it will help.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to do. If you allow me to complete.
Yeah, you will complete. I kept you here only because I say you have to complete everything. You have so much to contribute, but we don't get to hear all that.
For example, I said I posted something on Facebook saying that the Islam that we practice today is something that evolved about 300 to 500 years after the death of the Prophet. Therefore, we need to relook at it. And there was a period when there was philosophy was an accepted way. Science was accepted in Islam. And a change came about where all these things were branded as blasphemous, or branded as heretical, and therefore a different phase started. And we see the result. Immediately, I was attacked and said that what you're saying is a blatant lie. Somebody pointed out to me that what I was saying was a blatant lie. I said, read up your history. See, what I'm saying is, what I'm talking about is opening our minds to alternate ideas, opening our minds to other people's way of thinking. That is what mediation is all about. What do we do as mediators? We try to help people to understand each other's perspective so that they put themselves in the shoes of the other person, look at the problem from the other person's perspective, and then understand where this conflict is coming from and reach a resolution. So when we are talking about that, is it not important for us to also talk about the larger conflicts that are there in society?
As I told you,
Is
Jawad,
it not important for us to?
you are the larger conflict person. Maybe for me, please just resolve the disputes. I'm telling you, once they get the taste of mediation and disputes, the larger conflicts also will,
No,
over
no.
time, that will also help.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That is what Uma and Mr. Kiran also said, that we need to have this culture. Okay, we need to have this culture of having a conversation, understanding each other, and reaching a resolution. Okay, who are the differences? Okay, that is where mediation comes in. And that is where we as mediators, we owe a duty to society to talk about even those issues we are not comfortable about. Okay, because if we are not able to engage in a conversation about issues that affect us, how the hell are we going to talk to others and tell, oh, look at each other's perspective, try to understand each other? What nonsense is this? Aren't we being hypocrites? Aren't we having double standards? We pretend to be resolvers of conflict. We are not able to deal with our own conflicts. What are we talking about? That is where I come from. I am saying that let's talk. Let's talk, let's discuss, let's have an open mind. Let's see the larger impact that things are having on society. Let's see where this is leading us. Okay, is it in a positive direction? Or is it in the direction where we are going to be annihilating ourselves? Today we are on the brink of disaster. There's a war going on in Ukraine, and we don't know whether it's going to spread or whether it's going to be localized over there. Why aren't we able to get them on the table? Why aren't we able to help them to talk to each other? See, we are talking about smaller disputes. Yes, it has to start from here because that is where the culture will develop. That is where we need to focus on the culture.
So that's why I tell you
so therefore, see, when we talk about mediation, we are talking about a different cultural paradigm from the paradigm that we are used to. The paradigm that we are used to is adversarial, where we believe that we need to discredit. If Vikram and I have a dispute, it's important for me to discredit Vikram, to blame Vikram, to prove that Vikram is wrong, to prove that Vikram is a bad guy.
Why are you doing all that, Jawad? This is what you're doing about me.
No, I'm saying that if,
I know,
fortunately, we are not fighting with each other, you see. But if we are fighting with each other, this is what I'll be doing in an adversarial system. Now, we are talking about a shift in the culture of conflict resolution. We are talking about Vikram and I sitting and talking to each other, and I explaining my point of view, Vikram explaining his point of view, and Uma helping us to clarify each other's perspectives, helping us to have that conversation, pushing us, past all those deadlocks and all those stumbling blocks that we come in the course of our conversation. Wherever we get struck, Uma reframes the whole thing and helps us to move on. That is what we are talking. That's what mediation is all about. So unless and until we have the culture of how we are looking at conflict, how we are looking at crime, how we are looking at criminal jurisprudence, how we are looking at understanding our own biases and prejudices, how we are taking a relook at our own civilization and see whether those paradigms which defined our civilization, whether they are valid anymore.
My only
See, I really I have a problem when people start talking about the past.
Exactly.
This is what we were, this is what we did, this is how our society was. All that is fine. That was the past. Today, what are we? How are we going to? Are we going to progress from where we were before, or are we going to go back much further than what we were before?
So, Jawad, I tell you where my problem lies, because obviously all these things about sitting together, dialogue, we can do all that. The problem is at the same time we have to get the mediators. Identifying the right people to be mediators is also to happen at the same time, because we can obviously all those nice things we can tell them that you should sit together and have that, but where are those people for them? Because that is a very specific individual situation that someone will have to sit with you to do it. On a large level, on mass media, you can't do that for them. You can only tell them to do this, but that, so how do we do that? And that's why I was saying, give me a month. I would say 3 months I was asking, but give me a month. If you can, if you are connected, of course, schools you're connected to, one village, one community, that's all I said, 3 of these places, and just ask them about these people, and you will they'll identify them. let's bring them into a Zoom meeting and let's just talk to them. You will of course be happy, and Uma ji is also will be very happy when she talks to those people. That'd be of course one good thing. And then we will talk to them and see how we can then take that forward, because they are the ones who have to develop the culture in their communities. The larger discussion which Jawad will have to have on his YouTube channel and when he goes on television and in the articles, that will be the larger thing, that this is good for society and all that. But the person on the ground, we need those people. So I'm saying let's focus on that at the same time, or I am going to look at it first, because once I tell them and everyone says, oh yeah, yes, and I'm good thing, and they don't get the right people, the whole thing falls flat. So I'm just saying, give me that period to do that, and let's bring these people together. And that's the whole idea, this whole from grassroots onwards. Then we'll create that ripple effect, and then at the right at the global level, where all those people will then get connected. And that's the whole idea now, to do that. So if you something on that part of it, how do we go about that and what we need to do?
See, the important thing here is, Vikram, we need to understand that there are some people who have the natural skills, the natural ability to, or rather the natural emotional intelligence. They're endowed with that, like how IQ they're endowed with the right amount of EQ to be mediators naturally. Now, is it enough if we just identify these people having the necessary EQ to be the mediator? Because EQ is something, emotional intelligence is something that can also be learned. It is not something that you're always naturally endowed with, it is something that can also be learned. Because as I said earlier, the brain has what is called as neuroplasticity. So if you're exposed to the right environment, if you're exposed to the right kind of training, teaching, these skills can be learned by you, and these can be practiced. So because if supposing we're able to identify 100 people, now there might be about 10 of them who are using these skills consciously, knowing that, yes, this is where I'm getting angry, this is where I need to control my temper, this is where I need to control my outburst, and this is where the other person is getting angry. Here is where I need to be empathetic with that person. Here is where I need to reframe the whole conversation and put it in a different perspective. Now, out of 100, there will be 10 people who will be doing this consciously. Now, the other 90 of the talented people who have these EQ, they may be doing it without being conscious of this. Now, here the problem happens that, when you are doing something out of your natural skills, without being consciously aware that these are the skills that I possess, mistakes happen. Accidents happen. Okay. So that is where I think, what I'm saying is I fully agree with you. I fully support you and your endeavor. It's not that I'm not disagreeing. All I'm saying is, I'm just asking you to look a little further than that and see that if these people that you are selecting, who have these natural skills, can they be refined further?
Yeah.
Can they be made aware of these?
This is because that sometimes get lost, because my whatever I do is those programs are so long that gets lost. I'll tell you what the whole concept is. Of course, the mediator mindset is a lot of aspects of it. We also might not have words for a lot of aspects. And you've heard me about, I am bringing that whole heart, soul, spirituality, and of course, all the other elements which we also don't know, but the user knows. So we're asking the user, please tell us who those people are you go to, who those people in your school, in your community are there. So they will not be able to pinpoint any particular thing. It's the package. And that package, we don't know what it is. It's integrity in the community. It is the impartiality that they have seen over time. It is, like I said, heart, soul, spirituality aspect of it. What it is, they also would not know. So if you ask them in words, they won't know. Okay, who is this person with this quality? But the larger aspect of it, someone who helps you in resolving a dispute, there's a one specific person. The other one you're saying are the people who I call peacemakers. They are also required to make people sit together. That tell them, look, don't fight. So one is a don't fight, and one is come, I will resolve your fight. So these two categories are actually different, and both of these categories people know. They know these people. So all I'm saying is, let's just think that the user is smart enough and has their own gauge. That everyone's gauge also will be different. For one person, a person might be a mediator. For other person, might not be. It's their trust in the person. The one person might think this person is impartial. The other guy say no, he's not. So everyone has their gauge of people. So it's a very individual thing. So let's, whoever we bring out, and someone will be good for someone will be good for someone else, and that's perfectly all right. We want, but the people who are already there, and then what we do is, look, I am creating free resources. Let those free resources come out. But yes, as we always say, sometimes free is something not good. So in that case, they might be create a structure where we can create information available to them, resources available to them for free, plus also times when they can spend time with you and Umaji, and you can actually talk to them, engage them. So we not really that certification, we're not saying that word certification, but they've gone through your filter as people. I'm not, it's not that how they go through the process, they will have their way of doing it, and we are no one to tell them, oh, you, this is the way you do the process. Is their thing, but at least you get a gauge of that, so that we can do that. So but because it's scale, we have to look at scale, Jawad, and the scale is huge. I do
Right,
understand, look,
absolutely,
livelihood
absolutely.
is important, and that part of your life should keep happening, but there are enough people for that also, for that, who can go into
We
those
are
things.
absolutely on the same page on that, Vikram. I have no differences on point of view. Okay.
Because it
I fully
solves,
agree with you on
no, it
that
solves the
because the
larger
scale
thing.
is so huge.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
scale is huge,
exactly.
and we are
And
talking about
look, and the
see,
larger thing, I'll tell you, I'm coming from the, when I'm, after we've gone through this, then it addresses your issue about the way, whatever you see the output coming out, the output comes out from some source. So if these people who you identify and you put them together, look, right now what is happening, these are individual people sitting in some corner. They will not make any noise about themselves, because a person with a mediator mindset is a certain kind of person. They won't go out and put their posters out to come, I am a mediator kind of thing. They won't do that. People are going to them because they've gauged all that. But when we put them together and say, look, these are special people, and then create livelihood from them, for them around it, so they get recognized. And then, as I'm saying, society, once they can see these people in front of them, they will value them, and then they become your leaders. And then you will see change. It's not going to happen. I mean, I'm not saying it happen in a day or two. It's this is Vision 2026, only to put these things together. Then we are working on it. Then we'll take our 10 years.
2026 itself is a very ambitious
Yeah, it is. It is.
because it's going to take much longer than that. We are talking about a cultural revolution.
Absolutely. But the idea, look, I'll tell you what 2026 was only that, let's have our thoughts
We,
together.
we need to have some deadlines.
Yes, let's all put our thoughts together, because interesting thoughts are coming out from this conference. But the next one, after people have, of course, looked at it from different, open the mind first. First, open the mind, because I'm seeing very interesting kinds of discussions are happening, which otherwise may not have happened. I mean, I'm not saying that I am the one who's creating that. There are people who are talking about it. It's just a little kind of a platform. But the point is, those thoughts are there. So it's just that over this year, we'll have further discussions on that. But for me, the focus will be, if I can get Jawad and Umaji to reach out and get identified. We don't identify. I mean, the people identify. Let's bring them together. Whatever skill development of theirs you want to do, how you want to do, we'll then structure it. That's not a problem. But let's do it on a little scale kind of thing. That's my only hope.
Absolutely.
And
See, we are all with you on that, Vikram. There's no two ways about it. We are
but
all
you have to give time, Jawad. Where you are a busy person, you don't give time for these things. Mr. Panchu also, I told him, I've been telling him for so long, please give time towards this, because your one, like I said, one article shakes up the mediation world, and people start talking about it, which otherwise they would never do. I'm sure they have it in their mind, but they will never talk about it. So if you put out something, so Jawad says something, which is, like I say, I'm saying from the development of mediation and that aspect of it. Other things you will say, you will not listen to me. That I won't give you time for that. That's what I'm trying to say. I won't give you time for that, because when you see these people, you will feel that hope that you will see, you will have after that. You'll say, yes, look, what did I say? I was not today. It's been some time. Let's create one dispute-free village. Let's start with that. Let's keep that. It's a small thing, but once we have a model around that, then we can create YouTube videos, and then those can be circulated. I mean, why we have a medium available to us. So these people who are the people with the mediator mindset, they'll hear those people. The people who are using them, they'll hear those people. The large effect of it, that yes, we were able to resolve these things, they will see the effect. So that becomes a model, and that's all that has to be replicated. That's all there is. It's not like there is some other rocket science on the other end. Concept remains the same. Individual situations will be different. So let's start with one. I mean, look, the main thing is language issue in India. Obviously, we'll have to bring local people who can speak the language, because obviously English will not do. So, like, of course, you can handle Tamil, but I don't know about which other languages you know. You're a
Not only that, see, in India is such a huge country. The culture changes a bit much at once. And Uma will tell you the kind of experiences we have had when we have conducted training in different parts of the country. Okay, I think Uma, you can talk about that Orissa experience that you had.
Yeah. I remember.
Mediator ethics.
Yeah, we were talking about ethics, and a very senior gentleman, lawyer, said, "You're saying that you should not take any gift from the parties, or you should not give them anything." But the protocol there, apparently, even to a lawyer's office, when a party comes, they have to offer pan. So they said, if I don't offer pan, they will not talk at all. It's like offering a glass of water as soon as somebody comes home. Yeah. So they said, now how do we handle this? So then we had to tell them that, okay, why don't you have a box of pan on the table? And as soon as they come in, welcome them, seat them around the table and say, would you like pan? And so if they are taking it, fine. Everybody has it. So it's okay. So that sort of help. And in Madurai, I remember we had gone for a training, and there, they said the people from the whole village will come. It may be a matrimonial dispute, it may be a property dispute, but the members of that community, the members of that village will be factions, and they will all come there. And so they said, we can't seat everyone inside the mediation room. How do we get them to talk then? So one of the trainers, he had come from US at that time, and because he works with Mexicans, he said, give me a night. I'll come back in the morning and tell you. So the next day he came and said, ask each faction to choose, depending on the size, 2 or 5 people, and say that you will be bound by the decision that they take, and you are agreeing for those people to participate in the discussion. And so get the smaller crowd inside the room and start talking. So I think everywhere, I mean, mediation itself, as all of us know, is a very creative process. Each one of us develops our own style. What Jawad is also trying to say is that mediation is just to hone those skills, to understand what is there that is blocking them from moving, taking that step forward. So if we are able to help those people who are naturally inclined to help people, to understand that they can use certain techniques, then it will help them to do a better mediation. That's all. So each one ultimately will have to develop their own style. That we can't say everyone will fall into a rut and do the same thing.
Look,
we can't say.
Umaj, the thing is that all the good things that you people train people on in these small rooms, I just want that to get expanded, that exactly. Is available to everyone. They have access to it. On the other end, like you said about the community thing, how many people in a room, I'm saying let's use technology even on those community mediations. Everyone can watch it on YouTube, and everyone should be involved in the process, and they can be today. So let's try and expand it in terms of using technology and be able to find. I keep giving the example of these people who are doing it in Peru, like Luis Ore keeps coming on my shows. They had the large communities which are of course affected by mining projects. That's their kind of major activity they're doing. They took a large stadium and had all these people there. The government officials were on the television. I mean, in the sense they were online, and these people are there, and they're involved. Of course, then the process, whom do you bring out, who represents those people and all, that's by itself the dynamics of the situation and how you take it as a mediator. But I'm saying that there are options which we have to open our mind to, that we can do that. And I've been talking to Mr. Panchu about it, but of course he also doesn't have time. That this thing about mining projects being affected, communities being affected by mining projects, is a whole area we can develop in India. And this is something.
There are a lot of public interest issues like that. I agree. But you know what? I remember I had a second appeal where ultimately it was 2 factions fighting over putting up a temple in a particular place. Each of them had a right to worship. And you know what? There was no idol there. It was just a sickle. One belonged to a hill tribe nearby, and the other one was in the plains. And apparently because some grant, this land had been given. But what I found ultimately was one faction belonged to DMK and the other faction belonged to AADMK. And that is why they were fighting. So we have a peculiar situation in our country where political parties will instigate litigation, or they'll be the reason for litigation.
No, that's
And
what was happening there. There was violence. I mean, like here we have the Naxalite movement and all this happening in our country. Same thing was there. But because these people came in, and of course the government took that whole thing on them, they actually created a whole department in their about this whole conflict resolution aspect of it and brought people in. Things changed. They could actually now today are resolving it through that. So I'm saying it's not going to happen in a day, definitely. But to put it together, like I told you, I had Mr. Panchu. I got these two people separately because both of them are doing work there. Had a discussion with him, and look, finally, a person like him talking to the government and saying that, look, let's try it on a particular project. Okay, you've given out these coal mines now. Some tenders had come out or something like that. Auction had happened. Start with one because communities are going to be affected, definitely. So start with one. So that's why I'm saying there's so much work for mediators.
No, that's why I said, Vikram, the whole thing is based on trust, on how aware they of what are the possibilities and how much of power play is there. So again, enabling those people to understand the dynamics and then to understand the possibilities is, in a way, it may not be training. It has some kind of a process. It needs a process. It needs patience. It needs persuasion. So how are we going to do it? And as I said, we have to brainstorm and develop techniques.
Omaji, first thing we need is the right people. Because even if the community is affected, after we've done this identification and these people are available, so they will also be involved. Like the World Bank has something called the Office of the Compliance Advisor, Ombudsman. The idea was that these projects, the World Bank projects, which they fund those projects, and some private parties doing it in some place, there also communities get affected because of those projects. So they have these, first of all, they have their panel of mediators, then they take up local mediators, and then they work together, and then of course try and resolve it with whatever. So I'm saying the local person will also be important for us. So to develop those in each community is going to be a link. So there's a lot of work that is to be done, and we just have to sit together like this and have these discussions and involve more people. Look, you are familiar with mediators in India. I'm not, because you largely is from the court system, and obviously you people, of course, you are going out and training and you are meeting all these people. So let's bring out these good people and expand the conversation. And then, of course, I mean, it's not that I have to do anything. I mean, I'm just putting the thought out. People will take it forward. But let's have those conversations and how we can, at the grassroots level, identify, bring them forward. Whatever you people think is skill development, that material is not a problem to create. How much time does it create? I mean, if you do your sessions in 5 days, we just have to do recordings of 5 days. But problem is the livelihood. If your livelihood is coming from that, then it'll be incorrect to say that let's put it out publicly. Maybe, I don't know. You people have to say that. I don't know what the issues there are, because my livelihood doesn't come from training. So I'm saying put everything out as a free resource. That we'll have to balance out. I mean, I don't know, Jawad, what you think of how is you think you are okay with putting out this what you do out there for public access?
See, Vikram, the thing is, I would agree with you on that. I would say that it's important that we do it, because if we really want to, we are serious about ushering in this cultural change, then we can't think of money.
Can't think of?
We can't think of money all the time.
Yeah.
We can't think of our own profit all the time. Okay. There is a part of it, yes. There is a part of it where you need to work and you need to get the money for it. You need to get paid. The other part of it is, what is your contribution towards developing it further? Because if each one of us is focused fully on our own profit, I don't think we will make any change in society as such. And there's no point in us sitting here and talking about this change and about, bringing about this paradigm shift in these thinking of people and all that, if you're not going to make that sacrifice. Okay. So about that, I don't think there is any, I'm sure Uma will agree with me on this, that we don't have any reservations on that at all. Training is not at all the source of livelihood.
Perfect.
We are more focused on.
So you're okay with giving me time whatever
I have
stuff. Look,
absolutely.
let's just create, first of all, whatever I'm saying, let's expand the structure, because I had asked for the MNLU brochure, so they had some interesting things they were doing there. Similarly, from all over the world, let's pick up the structure that normally people do, whatever training, because in this MNLU, interesting one I found was Chanakya and mediation, Chanakya's thoughts on mediation. Let's bring that out. I'm saying let's, that it doesn't have to be there's no concept when we're putting it online it has to be 40 hours or whatever. We can have hundreds of hours, but let's put a structure there, because I tried that.
See, in fact, at a recent conference in Delhi, we were talking about revisiting the 40-hour training module. And this is what exactly I said. I said the 40-hour training is something very, very basic. It's like studying ABCD. Now, what we don't have in our country, for any profession for that matter, what is called a CPD, continuing professional development. We don't have that concept at all in our country, whereas other countries have this concept. Every profession has a CPD. So they work towards continuous professional development, which we don't. We think we are masters. The moment we reach a certain stage, we think we are the masters. We don't need to learn anything more. Now, this is where mediation is also going to get stuck, because we are going to be satisfied with the 40-hour training. And somebody tried to justify the manual of the Supreme Court on this 40-hour training, which was framed some 10 years back. Ideas have changed, concepts have changed. There are so many developments that are all over the world. And we still insist that our trainers follow that manual and not bringing in anything from taking away the trainers to do what they feel is the right thing to do.
So let's sit together. And
I have no two ways about it. I fully agree with you on
and then I tell you, and the best part, Jawad, the structure that I am proposing, there is no
Hello.
sacrifice on even the livelihood part of money part of it also, because the concept was that when you are supporting a particular community and you're identifying these people in that community and you're creating those people around you, you are actually the person in relation to mediation in that community,
Vikram, I'm not
larger
able to hear
community.
you.
You can hear me?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Jawad. Are you there?
Hello.
Cannot think.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, Jawad.
So
I'm not able to hear Vikram. I think his voice is breaking.
no, I think there was some signal
you
issue
hear
in
me?
you. Yeah, we can hear you. There's some signal issue, I think. But so Umaji, I don't know if Jawad is there or not. He can hear. Jawad, you can hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so the idea was that because you'll be supporting, I mean, you're actually identifying these people, and the community becomes larger as you go along. So you are available as a experienced mediator to that community also. Some things these people who you identify, they can do. Some things they may not be, but that may be more complex matters. Your experience will come in. So in terms of work also, you're getting work out of that community. So it's not that you're sacrificing on work. So it is a model where everyone should be paid for the mediation part of it. What we are just saying that in terms of the resource to the person with the mediator mindset, that is available to them as a free resource, because we feel that of course they're special and they might not have access to a lot of things, and let them get from the best of the world. Why should it be limited to only that, okay, there is some particular training organized and you will be able to go there? That also will happen maybe in a few years, maybe you get an opportunity. So let's create that. So whatever topics come together, let's put a whole thing, and then we'll identify, because I'll identify the right people for each topic maybe, and let's expand the discussion there. So, and how we were on to then bring them together, you will bring some into a Zoom room, and of course physical also, that's up to you. Mr. Panchu has cut off my physical world now. but but you'll bring them there, you will be able to understand them, and then it'll be like your little mediator community of the mediators. You'll take them together, you'll be their mentor, and then things, I think that that's the way I'm looking at it. If Umaji, is there some other things that you feel maybe the thoughts are not practical or anything? But I think they're practical, but that's the only thing I have. I'm only I don't have the theory part of it, which I have to learn from Jawad. So Jawad has to give me the brief of what all he reads. And that one part, Jawad, I will tell you about what you said about this the brain changing. There was one talk which I heard was very good. He said the amygdala of a person can actually change, and this whole system of the prisons that you have made, it was some, I don't know what, hundreds of years back. This was only the concept they understood. The whole concept has changed. Everything has to change around that. So we have to put that across also. Which is important.
No, Vikram, in a way, it is very important. So if you see this Yajnavalkya Smriti and all that, I mean, they have a code of how people have to be punished or how cases, right from the plain to written statement, everything is there. There they talk about if this person comes from this community for the same crime, if it's a Brahmin, he is awarded a very high punishment. And for an ordinary person, very low punishment because their discerning capacity is seen. So they had a structure where they understood what was necessary to keep harmony in society. It was not to just punish that person, it was to see that the people, and not even deterrence, it was to see that they understood that they have to take responsibility for their act. It was only because of that. So I think somewhere mediation has come full round to that. If we understand by taking responsibility for our actions, we will do the right thing. And so, as you said, a ripple effect will be created if we start developing from the village level. And from some, we identify those persons, help them to with their skills. And for all we know, we may learn a lot from them also.
Exactly.
So that is
Exactly.
also
Yeah.
a benefit for us. And because some of those real elders, by experience, by sheer experience, will be able to say something very practical and very useful also. So we have to keep an open mind. As Jawad was saying, this mindset, I mean, the brain is only, see, how are we conditioned? Right from the time when we are a toddler, we are taught that somebody else will take responsibility. But if we are able to tell them that, look, this is your problem, you have to handle it, you're going to change. That's how the brain adapts. Brain is ultimately what I want to be safe. The whole thing is based only on. See, there was a psychologist called David Marlon who was born to a British father and a Tamil mother. I happened to read what he had written about this, conflict resolution. And he says there are only three factors there. He talks about feelings and defensiveness mainly. He says anxiety is there. First, you want to protect your space. Then there are feelings because of that. And then there is defensiveness. And he says if you handle that, most of the conflicts can be resolved. And so these are the things that I think. See, it's not just, we can't say this is a prescribed syllabus. You pass your 10th class or you pass your BA or you pass your post-graduation or something like that. This is an ever-learning process. And as far as what you were saying about giving the material, both Jawad and I have always shared whatever material we've used for training, and we've never had a second thought about that. And I honestly feel that there is, especially today with Google, you have so much to read. And anywhere our texts were all handled down and there was no copyright for it at all. So any learning, I think if I find a benefit from it, I have to share. Yeah. Only then it will spread and it will be used. If I'm going to keep it to myself, it will rot. It will rust. That's all. So Jawad and I have always felt that we have shared all information that we have read and found useful. So I think it's not a question of sharing, and it's not just putting out a video or putting out a material to be read. You must have practical experience about how to use it. That's what we do. We do a lot of interactive sessions. We do a lot of exercises and role plays. That is where they learn to use the concepts. So our training is totally different. If you see, we don't lecture at all. Most of the time, we don't even use PPTs. We have more exercises to handle all that. So I think, see, each person has their own style. I'm not blaming this or I'm not finding fault with one kind of training. What I'm saying is, as you said, once this person has the capacity, then how to help them to understand their potential and really use it to the full potential. That's all. To that extent, if some of those highlights are made and they are able to take it forward, fine. And for that, first, we have to develop an interest in mediation, a motivation to be involved in it, and for the stakeholders to try it out. See, unless I put my feet into water, how will I get into the water to swim? I won't. So first attempt is to get them to put their feet in the water. How are we going to do that? That is the challenge.
Jawad has something for us on that.
I just wanted to share an experience which both Uma and I had. We went to one university where we did a conflict management module for students over there. And there was an ongoing conflict between the students and the warden, hostel warden. Okay. And what happened was, about 2.5 days, we had already lectured to them a lot about reframing, about this, about that, and how to, how to have a conversation, where you're having a conflict and how you should listen to the other person. But what happened was we gave them a role play. We said, okay, you have a real problem today on your hands. So one of you play the warden's role, and the rest of you will be, just 2 or 3 of you select who will be the students' representatives who are going to meet the warden and discuss about these issues. Now, what happened was, what we realized was the 2.5 days of lecture had absolutely no effect because it started off at a very, the conflict from the word go, it started escalating. And in fact, one of the staff members there, because the kind of things the students were saying to the so-called warden were so bad that one of the faculty was getting a little nervous also. And then we said, okay, this is the kind of conversation we've had. Okay, let's see how we can change this. And let's see you starting to look at it from the warden's perspective or the warden looking at it from the student's perspective. And see if you can make the conversation go ahead in this way. The whole thing transformed. And then they realized, they said, sir, we now understand where you're going on. So this is how we understand that we need to have a conversation. So that is what Uma was saying, that we believe in a lot of these interactive sessions where we give them actual conflict situations which they are faced with and ask them to, do that and see how the interaction happens. And then ask them to change that interaction to a more positive, more understanding and more sort of a space where they can have a dialogue with each other in a safe environment. So what should be the ground rules for that? How you should frame your words, how you should think before you talk. When you give these kind of practical exercises, that brings about the transformation much more than any amount of resource that they may have read or they may have listened.
But Jawad, the challenge is that how can we do this on scale? Because you want the interactive thing also, but you need large, because you want to reach out to large numbers also.
A
That aspect.
simple thing, Vikram. We should follow the concept of what, there are some, I don't know, there are some companies which have this method of selling where I enlist Vikram, Uma, and somebody else as the as the salesperson, and then Uma goes and enrolls another 10.
Yeah.
I think this is how we can spread it.
So this I've been talking. This was like last year I spoke about this, and I actually should not have said it's like a Ponzi scheme. Of course, you were saying multi-level marketing. That's a nicer way to say it.
Multi-level marketing.
Some people might say it's a Ponzi scheme.
Scheme,
but basically multi-level marketing is exactly what it's going to happen now. Jawad, it's all planned. It's all planned. My whole planning has happened there. It's going to be announced. I said, let's let the conference get over. We'll get into that. The whole plan is exactly that. But the important part is that to be able to get the right people to take it forward. So you people are connected to so many people in the country, and you, I'm sure, have identified those people who we can take with us on this journey. So please, because like I said, language is going to be one major factor. So we need people who can speak very different languages. So I'm sure you have over this time you've identified people or not in your mediator community.
We have a whole lot of people out there.
No. Where we need the right people. So, Umaji, this is what you have to do. Jawad is being a little politically correct, I think. So he'll face this problem. So if there are names, please send me names. I'll involve them. I'll get them together. I'll get them on a Zoom meeting. And then that's just like the ripple effect has to happen. Let's get a few. Then exactly this multi-level marketing concept, we will take it forward from there. It'll work. I'm telling you, it'll work. There is a whole structure that I've thought about this. So the other thing of content, please, on the content of the whatever, if you skill development program, all the thoughts from wherever, if you have access to, whatever access I find, I'll send it to you and we'll share it, we'll put it together, and let's make a nice skill development program structure, and then put the free resources out there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Both of you for giving so
Thank you,
much
Ma.
time. And
let
this conversation not end here, but let the conversation not end here. Okay, this is we're going to take it forward, right?
No, I think Jawad and I last week are going to be ranting away about mediation. That's all.
Okay.
Okay, see you then.
Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.
See, Uma and I have our own pet peeves. So talking about that. So
But imagine
as
this,
he said,
if you people had a show on YouTube and you had that going, it would have been enjoyable also, and people will learn from that also. But those are the kind of things I've been telling. Like I told you, 9 months have happened, and the baby has not come out from Jawad's stomach.
Okay.
Okay, see you.
Okay then. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.